All right, buying Gold Coast. This is a deep dive ep. We're going to go deep on a specific topic. Appreciate all the feedback with these ones. Very specific to not only a topic, but also very Gold Coast related. And today we are going to discuss the 3 most expensive things you are doing right now as a Gold Coast buyer. So caveat on this, not everyone is doing these, but this is just an observation. Running a Gold Coast buyers agency company, hearing feedback from all of our buyers agents within the team too. They're day in, day out on the Gold Coast. Some buyers absolutely crush it, which is amazing and so inspiring to see everyday Gold Coasters doing well. But there is a contingent that are not doing so well, and hopefully this episode gives you the 3 most expensive things that we've observed some Gold Coast buyers are doing right now. So number 1 is buying with FOMO mentality. So might have heard the word FOMO, like fear of missing out. So buying with fear of missing out mentality, FOMO mentality. What I mean by this is I noticed this probably very common, probably 2 years ago. Post-COVID, there was a lot of people buying with FOMO, and it wasn't until 12, 24 months later where the expense of their, mistake was evident. And I do still see it now. The reason I see it now is because supply levels are short. Inventory levels on the Gold Coast right now have essentially decreased. So what that tells me is that there is less stock available. That now doesn't mean buyers take more of their time. There's buyers out there who literally need a property in the next 30 days. They've just settled on a property and gone unconditional. They need something. There's also some buyers out there that might have an offer on a property and they can't get a rental now, and now they're stressing out. So where this FOMO mentality comes from, I've observed firstly is an increase in stress on situation. So if that's you, my advice would be understanding your timeline. So what I mean is, to avoid the FOMO mentality when it comes to buying, one thing that a lot of Gold Coast buyers have done is maybe looked at short-term accommodation. So maybe Airbnb. We've got contacts. If you need contacts, reach out, because if you've got a 30 to 45 day settlement and you have nowhere to go after that, you have no, choice but to act with, a 30 to 40 day mentality. And that's stressful for anyone out there, especially people who might be, this is their only first, second property they've ever bought. So that's number 1 is getting your ducks lined up. So short-term accom is one. There are hotels. Yes, it's an expense, but again, that expense could be saving you in the long run with decreasing your FOMO mentality. Number 2 is why I think FOMO mentality is very costly, is skipping or rushing the due diligence process. So what that means is you might see a property you like. Without doing the thorough due diligence, you could be buying a property that might have not only maintenance issues. We've seen it a lot post-Cyclone Alfred, where some properties look good on the pictures and getting through it, but they didn't inspect the property to the degree of getting a building report and analyzing it. And it's only now post-Alfred or a weather event that the whole house is leaking. There's sagging in the roof. There's drainage issues in the backyard that are now costing, upwards of 10K and beyond. So without that due diligence, that could have been avoided up front if they were revealed first, and then you came up with solutions to fix them early rather than too late. So again, if you're buying with FOMO mentality, I've seen a lot of Gold Coast buyers just rush in. They see a property, first one they like, boom. Because of the stress, they rush in, buy it, skip the whole due diligence process, and then they're actually costing themselves money in the medium to long term when things come up. So number 1 is the most expensive thing Gold Coast buyers are doing right now in 2025 is buying with FOMO mentality. Just don't do it. Just try and avoid it. Be aware if this is you, and either seek help or understand you can limit the feeling of stress by doing things like rental accommodation, maybe family, maybe there's friends you can move into, different things like that, because you really want to be buying in a relaxed state, definitely. Number 2, this is a very common one I've seen on the Gold Coast. the second most expensive thing you're doing right now as a buyer in 2025 is overpaying at auctions. And it's a bit of a controversial one because, look, that's the whole point of an auction environment, I feel, for a vendor and an auctioneer, is to create a bit of hype, create a bit of emotion. So you as a novice buyer, you're stuck in the pressure cooker and you're there to make a decision on the spot. You are buying in an unconditional environment. So once the hammer goes down and you're the highest bidder, you own the property. Now, the biggest thing I find with auctions on the Gold Coast is the ones that do well and the ones that don't do well is there's a clear observation. The ones that do well have a clear strategy and process prior to going into the auction. And what that strategy looks like is two things. Number one is understanding what the value of the property is. Not to the dollar, anything like that. It's just understanding to some degree what this property is worth. It's not rocket science, comparable sales, having a look at sales within the last 3 months, looking at square meterage rates, internal floor square meterage rates, understanding the aspect. Is it on the eastern side, western side, and also the renovation quality, any auxiliary benefits, things like that. Just getting an idea of what the property is worth, number one. Number two then is creating a bidding strategy and identifying where your walkaway limits will be. So too many times I feel buyers come into auctions with, firstly, not knowing what the property's worth, and then secondly, bidding without any form of strategy or thought process on where to stop. So why it's so good to understand what it's worth, then you can kind of create your own bidding strategy from that. You can unemotionally, if it gets heated in the emotion of the auction, the bidding's going and it's back on you and people get nervous, you already know kind of your limit in your head and you can bid with confidence then. And if it goes beyond that, then you simply can walk away. And that's a decision for you to try and find those numbers. And the good thing is, and this is a little bonus tip, believe it or not, and this is a strategy that I've done, is the more confident you are at auctions, the better success you will actually have. Because believe it or not, 99% of people don't do what I'm just telling you to do right now. So they're actually very nervous. They get a bit intimidated by people who are confident at auctions. And what happens? They don't even bid. So if you're someone who can quantify value, have a process and a bidding strategy of where your walkaway limits, you can go on the auction floor, have the paddle out, you can bid with confidence, and then you won't believe how many more auctions you win. So tip number 2 to not make so much of an expensive mistake is understanding quantified value of a property and a bidding strategy so you don't overpay in the heat of an auction. So that's number 2. And number 3, this is probably my favorite one. I left the best till last. So the third most expensive thing you could be doing right now on the Gold Coast as a buyer is doing nothing at all. And why I say that is one of my favorite quotes, and this is one that hopefully will translate to someone out there or relate to someone listening to this on the Gold Coast right now, is that inaction is the most expensive thing you are doing right now. The average time it's taking a buyer now, from recent statistics from realestate.com, it's upwards of 44 weeks the average buyer is taking. That's nearly a whole year. The market on the Gold Coast is essentially moved, on average, anywhere from sort of 11 to 15%, very rough, but over the last 12 months. So you're looking at anywhere from a 1 to 1.5% month-on-month growth. So basically, every month you are out of the market, you are costing yourself upwards of 5 to 10K. On a more expensive property, it's probably 20 to 30K. Every month you're out of the market. So I just see so many people on the Gold Coast right now just continue to wait, continue to just use the phrase, it'll be right. I'll just stay patient for the right one. I always say you got to search slow, but then act fast. The market is moving quicker than your procrastination. And each month that goes on, don't see it as more so time, see it as actual money you're costing yourself by not getting into the market. So the biggest key takeaway I give for that is don't blame the market. Don't blame the agent. Don't blame anyone else for not finding what you want. Take full accountability and understand what it is you actually want. Be serious around buying. Quantify value appropriately so you're putting in realistic offers rather than just lowballing everything and thinking everything's overpriced. Because that strategy alone of not getting the property you want and just continually procrastinating is literally costing you thousands every single month. And if you are someone who struggles to pull the trigger, like I've had people come up to me and say they, hand on heart, they know they're someone who struggles to, I guess, jump off the cliff and do something. That's when you need to lean on either professionals to help you, maybe have a mentor, someone who's bought a lot of properties, even if it's a friend or family member. There was a really good example. We had a client, we helped them, but they had their cousin with them who was in construction, and they bought, multiple properties in Sydney, and they actually used to fly up with her. She was from Sydney herself, but this was her first purchase in years. And she was on her own, and she just would not do anything because she was scared, and totally get it. So if that's you, understand sometimes you might need someone in your corner to actually help you make a decision too. So hopefully that helps. Again, the last one is probably my favorite because it's very common on the Gold Coast. It's only hindsight when you actually realize that, man, I wish I bought that 6 months ago and I'd be sitting on X amount of equity. So don't be one of those people. And if anything, understand that these three key things. So number one, buying with a FOMO mentality. Number two is overpaying at the heat of an auction. And number three, doing nothing at all. Hopefully you can just be mindful if one or any of those three are you right now on the Gold Coast. If it is, don't stress. It's more so be aware of it and move the needle in the right direction. As I said, whether it's get help, do some of the tips I gave you, you will find you will actually get in the market before getting priced out of the market. So hopefully that helps. And lastly, I always say this too, is like, have gratitude for where the Gold Coast market is heading. Like when you look at Australia, some markets right now are stagnate. Some markets are going backwards. We're in a market here on the coast where we're actually moving forward, which is really exciting. The infrastructure that's happening on the coast as well is at an all-time high. There's a lot of spending. We had this cyclone Alfred that happened, and it's crazy. Literally within 48 hours, bang, so many people had open homes again, and they're just straight back on the horse. So that's really positive. Don't see that as a negative and blame how competitive it is. See it also as like, so grateful we're in a market that's actually moving and it's got positive vibes. So hopefully that helps. If there is any topics you wanted, this was a big one actually. People mention a lot of like, what am I doing wrong? What are the expensive mistakes? So if there is a topic you want to dive deep on, let me know. Jump on the couch, we'll unpack it. And hopefully that helps.